Wait for the rest of them now to come around, which is kind of messing up our schedules, but I'm sure we'll get down that with a very important race in mind. 9th round of the championship, I said. Current championship positions, just to let you know before the off. Mark McKenna leads Alan Ring, 81 points to 72, but on drop scores, one of those drop scores, Alan Ring in number 7 is 71 points. Chris Paul is on 68, and Derek Hayes is on 67 in 4th place with Jeff Wright alongside Mark McKenna on the front row of the grid of the Vector. He is on 56 points, just trying to calculate things. A couple of drop scores there, 3 points down, so 81 to Mark McKenna, Alan Ring on 71 as they line up on the grid for the Ford of Ireland Formula Ford 1600 Championship, round 9.
Yeah, I think Mark was a bit worried there. I think he actually nodded to the marshal up Dunlop Hill there. Where's everybody else gone? They're lining up now. Time to take 3 deep breaths. They check their mirrors. They're just...
Number 51 there, John Whelan, the outside of the second row. His brother works with us here in RTE, so good luck to him. And moving further down the grid there, you can see down as far as row 5, those 2 championship contenders there. Alan Ring, number 10, in the Van Diemen, and Chris Paul alongside in the Swift. They, of course, will be in contention right throughout the afternoon. And some of the qualifiers in the B race now gridding themselves at the back of the grid. Shortly, they'll be off on this 15-lap race.
You can see the entire grid there. The 5-second prompt will come up any second, and obviously, as we told you earlier, there it is, 5 seconds, red lights, 2, 3, maybe 4 seconds, and they're going. They're gone. And what a great start for Jeff Wright, car number 8.
Jeff Wright going around the outside, but Mark McKenna closes the door on the Swift. I thought that Jeff Wright had got a good jump start, but unfortunately for him, it was Mark McKenna who got the better of the 2 starts, and he leads as they head out in the country with John Whelan up to 3rd place from the second row of the grid. Good start for him, but it's McKenna from Wright from Whelan.
For my money's worth, the 1600s are definitely the most exciting cars, the single-seaters that is, to watch going into Coca-Cola Bend on these races, because it's a pure frenzy to get out there in front and to stake your claim and take as much of a good distance as you can between you, the car behind you.
Yes, these really are the young lions of Irish motorsport. These drivers will hope to be in contention for a place in the Irish and indeed Northern Irish team for the Formula Ford Festival, which happens, and World Cup, which happens in Brands Hatch every year at the end of October. A wonderful sight. 2 series actually there this year, as the same as last year, the Formula Ford 1600 series, the Kent series, and the VTEC series was the 1800 series, but this is these cars running at the 1600 spec. At the end of lap 1, McKenna still leads.
It's been an amazing season for Mark. He's put all of his determination and everything into it. He's had a couple of flunks, as it were, the first couple of rounds, but he certainly began to build consistently since then.
Yeah, a couple of race wins, one in Pembrey earlier on this year. They've used one of their championship rounds in Wales, and then one in Mondello Park also in June. That was May and June, and he leads the championship now by some 9 points, but 10 points from Alan Ring. But further down the field, we have a little bit later on a chance to see the likes of Ring and Chris Paul working their way at the field, which I expect them to do.
I think Mark is one of the most comfortable drivers I've come across in a long time. I'm just talking to him this morning. Nothing seems to faze him. He just manages to keep this relaxed consistency, even right throughout the race, which obviously is standing to him.
John Whelan has lost a place. We were saying it works in RTE. He won't be too happy with that. He's dropped down to 4th place. Hayes now, car number 18, moved up to 3rd place from John Whelan's Van Diemen. The 2 Van Diemens battling each other, but up front it is still Mark McKenna and the Swift who leads. That's a battle for 3rd place there. Derek Hayes, number 18 in the Van Diemen. John Whelan in the Van Diemen in 3rd place behind him. But there's our race leader heading up to Bridgestone, Mark McKenna in the Swift.
It's a beautiful afternoon here in Mondello, and I hope the drivers aren't having as much trouble as we are watching our monitors here, because the sun's coming straight into our commentary box. Gorgeous day.
Just looking at Mark McKenna's lap times, he's doing a 63.5, which is way ahead of the field. Jeff Wright's in 2nd place, is lapping in 64.2, and Whelan and Hayes down in 64, 65. So that gives you some indication of how he can pull out even half a second a lap, and over 15 laps, that's 15 seconds, and that's, well, nearly half the circuit, Gareth.
This Dunlop turn is a very difficult turn to actually manage, because it seems to feel different every time. You got to go into it very sharp, and you got to turn very, very hard without going into an understeer situation.
Yes, it's a blind corner. You actually come up a hill, and you'll see the braking line, and what usually happens in that corner is that you can sometimes oversteer and overcorrect, and the back wants to step out of these heavy cars as well. So the problem in going into that corner is to make sure that you get the braking right, the cornering right, because I said you're going into it blind.
Looking at car number 9 there, that's George McAlpine. And obviously two guys who are really hoping to make it big here this afternoon will be Chris Paul and Alan Ring. As I mentioned earlier, we're a little bit discouraged by ending up in row 5 on the grid for this final.
Yeah, that's the battle there for, where are we talking? 5th, 6th and 7th place. George McAlpine, also Richard Wallace in the Van Diemen. He's now driving for Derek Daly Racing. He's been with Derek Daly for half the season, has really improved, and he finished or qualified 6th on the grid and has had a good race today. And just behind them is the wily old veteran himself, Alan Kelly, who's making a return to Formula Ford racing this year in the Van Diemen, number 29.
And also from a commercial point of view, John, I think it's fair to say that Mark and Jeff aren't the only guys fighting for this, because we've got two of the biggest courier companies in the world here, actually, also fighting for first place today.
And there's a battle way down the field, or not way down the field, but in midfield, as our leader goes through Bridgestone Corner. There's our 4th place man there, John Whelan in the Van Diemen, and a whole gaggle of cars behind there, including McAlpine, Wallace, Kelly, and Gunning, number 69.
Just got a quick shot of Chris Paul's car going through there. Nice consistent run, but he's going to have to really step it up if he wants to catch up with these two young guns, Mark and Jeff, who are really stealing a big lead here.
Just mentioning earlier on the difference in the Irish spec and some of the new spec that's been brought into Formula Ford racing over the last couple of years. Formula Ford racing up to its 25th anniversary was exclusively 1600 series. Then Ford decided they wanted to upgrade things to make it an 1800 Z-Tac series. The Irish drivers decided, well, I'm afraid that it's just far too inexpensive an experience for us to go through, so they've decided over the last couple of years now to stay with the 1600 spec, and as a result Irish drivers going to the Formula Ford Festival in Brands Hatch have been very successful over the years, and the organisers of the Formula Ford Festival and World Cup in Brands Hatch decided that the 1600 class must stay, so there will be 2 series this year as against last year. The 1600 Kent class, which most of the Irish drivers will be involved in, and of course the 1800 Z-Tac classes, which is now I suppose the superior classes, and guys like Johnny Kane has won down the years. Not the Formula Ford Festival itself, but the British Championship. Unfortunately, was excluded after found his engine was illegal. He's now moved up to Paul Stewart Racing. He's racing in Formula Vauxhall and into Formula 3. So it is a major stepping stone for some of these Irish drivers. But Mark McKenna, our race leader, with some 9 laps to go, and I can't see anything catching Mark. Can you?
I can't really, but I'll tell you who could well gather a bit of momentum there over the next few laps, and that's car number 25. That's Noel McIntyre, who was down in row 8. He's made considerable uppings in the race today. A quick shot there of car number 12, that's Ray Wallace in the Derek Daly prepared Van Diemen.
Yes, he's coming under considerable pressure from Alan Kelly. Alan Kelly has been around Formula Ford racing for a very long time. Good to see him back here in Formula Ford racing here in Ireland, and he's done a wonderful job. There is car number 11, that is Raymond Knox in the Van Diemen, and car number 10 behind him, which is Alan Ring from Cork. Alan Ring from Cork, who's again 2nd in the championship. He's from Kerry, my apologies, but next door to him. I don't think that he should complain.
We'd be happy to take him in Cork.
But Alan Ring has been 2nd in the championship now for quite a while, and in fact won in the last round in Kirkeston, so he closed the gap on Mark McKenna with 2 rounds remaining, but with drop scores anything can happen at this stage. But there's our leader going through with 8 laps remaining.
Quick shot of Mark and a quick shot of Jeff there. It's going to be a battle right down to the wire, I think, over the next 8 laps. I think it's fair to say there are 3 tussles going on here if you look at the field today, and some very exciting racing indeed.
I was saying a little bit earlier on that I thought Mark McKenna looked in a very comfortable position, but just looking some of the lap times, they're now down to the 58s, and Jeff Wright is slowly but surely inching his way back into the slipstream of Mark McKenna. I thought Mark McKenna looked very comfortable up front. He was doing the high 58s, but behind them, as you can see, Jeff Wright is on the ragged edge, and then Derek Hayes right behind him. So we could have a 3-car battle to the finish here, Gareth.
Yeah, I think so, and still well over halfway to go in this. Don't forget, we're into a 15-lap race here. Most of the other races over the weekend have been 10 laps. We're down to, let's see, lap number 8 at this stage.
Yes, 8 laps to go, and Mark McKenna across the start-finish line now with 7 laps to go. And just have a look at his lap chart time as soon as it comes up here on our ACJ timing computer, courtesy of ACJ. McKenna was doing 58.59 in the last lap, and he had a slight gap, difference of 0.71 of a second.
And we've got somebody off
One
here.
of the River Rock cars is off. That is car number 11, Raymond Knox, who is having a great battle there with Alan Ring, but has obviously got too much for him. And the wishbone completely destroyed. The front car destroyed. No wheels. The marshals are now in attendance with him. Let's hope. We've had 1 or 2 accidents here this afternoon. Everybody, thankfully, has emerged relatively unscathed. Let's hope the same applies to young Raymond Knox.
As I heard Brian Tute earlier on during the Formula Opals, there has been a considerable oil spillage there just coming out of Coca-Cola. There's a lot of cement on the ground, but it still remains very sticky because of the hot weather here this afternoon, so you've got to be that little bit more careful.
Yes, you're going to see a lot of puffs of smoke here, and you may think it's coming out of the back of the cars, but it's not. It's actually in some of the dips where some of the oil has been spread across the track, so they put cement, some of the marshals put cement on top of that, and that's when they bottom out into the corners, or some of the corners, or some of the little dips, you'll see that puff of smoke coming out of the back. It appears to be something wrong with the engine, but it's not. It's actually that concrete dust puffing up behind the cars.
6 laps to go. Still a race leader. He's doing a tremendous job, and he's having a great race out here this afternoon as Mark McKenna, car number 2, followed closely, not as closely I might add, his follower Jeff Wright, car number 8.
Yes, he's opened up an over a second lead, 1.15 second lead from Jeff Wright. The second place has Mark McKenna, 58.41 seconds. So he's just turning up the wick a little bit. Maybe had a look behind to see that Wright and Hayes were closing in on them, and he said, I got to just make sure that I have that little comfortable distance of at least a second. As they come up to Dunlop Corner, heading down. 5 laps to go at the end of this.
Just having a look at the little tussle there at the back of the field between Trevor Aston and Damien Burke, cars number 61 and 77. Some great racing there as well.
Mark McKenna, 5 laps to go, goes through car number 8, Jeff Wright, then Hayes from John Whelan in the Van Diemen, then car number 9 up into 5th place overall, and then a whole gaggle of cars behind, and it's a real battle of the field. Oh, they've come together. That is number 69. That is John Gunning from in the Mondello, who's out of the race and thankfully out of the car at that Coca-Cola corner.
There's car number 5, Chris Paul. Back to car number 12 there, and some amazing locking up now. Oh, and another collision there. There it is again. Just watch carefully.
That is the replay of John Gunning going into the side. His Mondial, his wishbone absolutely collapsed into Coca-Cola corner. A whole host of cars then had to scoot around the other car that he rammed into there, and thankfully everybody got around, but that's the end of Gunning's race.
It might look like plain sailing for Mark, but he's keeping the pressure on. There's the driver that was in the River Rock car, of course. That's Raymond Knox. He looks very shocked. That's a doctor there, obviously, just checking him. I don't believe it. Our race leader, his race is over. Well, that is motorsport for you. You can seem to be out in the front on your own, absolutely cruising. It seemed that Mark McKenna, all he had to do was just keep the car on the dance floor, and look what's happened. He's obviously got some kind of problem. We didn't see it. He's looking down at the front wishbone of the car. He seems to have, the front wheel has got a major problem, and of course that now elevates Jeff Wright to the lead. Well, what a huge disappointment. Here it is again. Watch carefully.
We can see it once again. The front right wheel seems to have completely locked up, and in fact the front right wheel seems to have completely collapsed. Was it a collision? Was it some structural fault? We don't know, but this is now a race leader with what, 2 laps remaining. Jeff Wright has taken the lead in the Formula Ford 1600 Challenge. It
seems to be the curse of that Coca-Cola bend again. It's claimed so many good drives this weekend, whether it's the oil or a combination of the oil and the very, very hot tarmac.
Correction to that laps to go. There is 3 laps to go, so it's now Wright from Hayes, from Whelan, from McAlpin, from Wallace, from Chris Paul, who's now moved up to 6th place, with Kershaw into 7th. So our leader, Jeff Wright, 2.5 laps to go as they come out of Bridgestone corner, up over the crest of the hill, down into the S's. He now knows that he basically, as I said, just to keep things on the dance floor, but behind him, Derek Hayes will be thinking, I have a chance here, but with the demise of Mark McKenna, it's now handed the lead to Jeff Wright.
Well, he's establishing a very nice little lead for himself as well. If he can manage to keep that up, do everything right, just keep yourself a minute ahead when you're thinking there, Jeff, and it could be your afternoon.
Some of the other cars who've demised, if you want to use that word, expired from this race include Alan Ring, who was second in the championship. So that gives a chance now to Chris Paul, with Mark McKenna also out of the race, to just pick up a few championship points. Paul is currently up in 6th place. That'll give him a few championship points to close the gap on Mark McKenna, who, as I said, is out of the race along with Alan Ring.
There we are, we're back. Well, we were back there, but yes, we're back again with our race leader, Jeff Wright, as he heads for the country there. A very sharp right turn here. You can see obviously where the cement has been put down on some of that oil spillage. You can hear the brakes locking up there. You can see he's actually taking the lines very, very well here.
Just has to be careful now. A lap and a half to go. As the bottom of the S's, Hayes in close pursuit, and also John Whelan behind him. Just clipped the apex there, straight across the road. Just touched the rumble strips out on the far side, up the hill. You see he'd be blind going into that corner, just dabbing the brakes into 2nd gear, round that corner, Dunlop corner, onto the main Dunlop straight. It's now 1 lap between Jeff Wright and the winner of the 9th round of the Ford of Ireland Formula Ford Championship.
Okay, so Jeff is obviously concentrating very hard here. You can imagine he'll be gripping that steering wheel with all 10 knuckles, or would that be 8, while he actually tabs away at the gears there.
Heading out of the country for the very last time, our leader, Jeff Wright, just will lift here, power down again into Bridgestone corner, brake into 3rd, up the crest of the hill, just kiss that little rumble strip, down into the S's now, into 3rd gear, turn once again, just keeps things tight, nice and easy. He knows that he's got plenty of a distance behind him. As the last lap, he had a 1.4 second lead from Derek Hayes, with John Whelan in 3rd place. Coming up now, all over the place, Derek Hayes behind him. That won't bother our leader too much. Jeff Wright, as he crests the hill, turns down onto the main straight, and it's going to be Jeff Wright who takes the win here at Mondello Park.
There's the checkered flag. Congratulations, car number 8, the DHL car, Jeff Wright's victor, the winner of the Formula Ford 1600 final. And let's go through the results for you. As I say, the winner today, and what a great win it was for him too, slightly unexpectedly perhaps, but he's got it. Jeff Wright in the victor. Derek Hayes in 2nd place with the Van Diemen. John Whelan in 3rd in another Van Diemen, and in 4th place George McAlpin.